Delighted on this episode to be peering into looks like the creative corner of author Jeff Strand. Jeff, thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Glad to have you. I'll mention a couple of titles here. Pressure being one of those, Demonic, Creep Out. I have a bad feeling about this. You have several books that are out. So lots to enjoy and to check out for listeners.
Yep, I'm up to about 60 at this point, so I've been doing it for a
Wow.
long time.
Wow. Yeah. What got you started on this path of writing and sharing?
I'm not sure. I wish I had a good answer. I need the answer of, and then on this day I knew I wanted to become a writer. Something, a lightning bolt hit me or something, but it's actually just I don't know. I've always wanted to be a writer. It goes back as literally as far as I can remember. I was laser focused on the idea of being a writer. And it wasn't always I want to be a novelist. It was, I want to write comic books or I want to write movies or I want to write whatever. But writing has always, for as far back as I can go, has been my goal in life. So I'm
Nice.
happy to be
Nice.
here.
Yeah. Across 60 books, I imagine your process has changed. Are you one of the Stephen King kind of people that writes like a certain amount of every day, or is there a different kind of schedule that you keep with that?
My approach is the student who procrastinated on their paper until the last minute. So
Ah,
like the amount of writing I do varies. Like I have a book that is due very, very, very soon. So I'm doing lots of writing. And, once that book is done, then I'll have a gap where I don't have any pressing deadlines, and then I will turn into the procrastinator. So I'm trying to get onto a more regular schedule, but I've been doing this for a long time and never quite got onto a regular schedule. So we'll see. I have plans for like, a tighter thing starting November 2nd, but we'll see how that works out. But yeah, it varies a lot. I've never been good at I write 2,000 words a day every single day. It varies a lot, but I get the stuff done. So
that is the important thing, the deadlines and all of those things. And
yep.
I'm hearing the procrastination. Absolutely. I'll go in like bursts and write a lot, and then go a while and just kind of store up energy. It seems like.
Yep.
Curious about inspirations that you have. Is there anything in particular that kind of gets you in that zone of writing and creating?
A lot of it is just brainstorming. It's very rare that, I'll read something or see something that is a book idea. Usually it's okay, I need to write another book. What haven't I done? And so then okay, what horror subgenre haven't I tackled? Well, I haven't done a ventriloquist dummy. Okay, what can I do
Mm-hmm.
with a ventriloquist dummy that hasn't been done before? Well, what if I turned it into survival horror? What if the ventriloquist dummy is actual threat? Because a ventriloquist dummy story is generally a really slow burn. What if it's not so much of a slow burn? Then the book turned out to be a slow burn anyway, but that's kind of where I start is what haven't I done and how can I put a twist on it? So it's very much a brainstorming, sort of a slow, methodical process to build the story instead of that eureka moment. That's my next book.
Nice, nice. Anything that you'd like to say as far as what draws you to horror? And I know that you also are quite accomplished at humor. So, anything about that combination or either of those categories that connects you?
I don't like to write the same book over and over and over. So, I've written a bunch of books and there's a lot of variance in there, even though most of them are horror. And I think the horror genre lets you, there's a lot of freedom in there. The Wolf Hunt books are basically action novels, but with a werewolf. Creep Out is kind of the slow, creepy thing. Sinister Mr. Corpse is an all-out comedy. Pressure is a really dark thriller. The Odds is another thriller, but a very different type of thriller than Pressure. The Odds is sort of a fun, thrilling kind of book, and Pressure is a punch you in the stomach type of book. And so I'm able to be a horror writer, but I can still write a very different book each time. So that's what keeps me coming back to the horror genre, both as a reader, a viewer, and a writer, is that I can, there's so much variance and I can do lots of different things. I'm not repeating myself. I think there are a lot of other genres that would be a lot more difficult. I think, if I were writing romance, it would be a lot harder to write a completely different book every time. And so that the freedom, the flexibility is what keeps me with horror. In fact, I just really enjoy the genre.
Nice, nice. Any sort of palate cleanser that you have in between projects as you're kind of resetting and starting something new and looking for that next idea?
I write horror comedy. I like just pure comedy, just as the palate cleanser. I also, I enjoy literary fiction, not deep literary fiction, but kind of the non-genre type stuff where it's just, usually they have a lot of humor, that kind of stuff. The Jonathan Tropper type stuff is what I
Mhm.
enjoy between the more horrific stuff.
Nice, nice. Anything that you'd like to say about your current project that you're working on, or anything like that that you'd like to mention as far as what's next for you?
Well, another thing that gives me a lot of freedom is that I also do books for kids. So the one that I am finishing up that is due very, very soon, it's called Terror from the Cave. It's the fourth book in my Eek series, and they are horror novels for middle graders. And this one is about, it's basically my creature feature for kids, and it is essentially an avalanche uncovers this prehistoric clawed fanged creature from a cave, and it goes on a rampage. And because this is for kids, this isn't the grueling, nightmarish horror that will forever destroy your psyche. This is kind of the fun, how are the kids going to get out of this mess? And the body count is very low. There aren't body parts flying all over the place, but so that's kind of the fun stuff. At the same time, not now because I'm so close to the deadline, but when I started the book, at the same time I was working on my next adult novel, which is a stalker novel. It's basically about a writer who ends up in a stalker situation with a fan, and it is very, very loosely based on an incident that didn't really go anywhere. I was like, well, what if that had gone somewhere? So it's kind of like a true story exaggerated by, the ninth degree kind of thing. So
Love the what if question.
yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I taught middle grades for 8 years, so anything that helps you kind of connect with that readership and think about that part of your life and what the middle grades audience is looking for.
Right. I just kind of write what I would want to read at that age. I just keep it fun. They're not meant to be deep philosophical books. They're just I did a bunch of comedies for young adults for the same publisher, Source Books, and they were technically young adult, but they were on the low end of young adult. So it's not a big step to go from those to middle grade. And the
Mhm.
idea was always I don't specifically write them for reluctant readers, but that is kind of part of the audience, which is basically the kids who are like, I hate books. Books are stupid. Books are punishment. Yeah, well, this book's a lot of fun. This book is, a lot of goofy comedy. And that's kind of what
Yeah,
I'm doing here. These are not, these are just fun books. And if if a kid is forced to write a book report and the teacher's like, well, you know, you may not like to read, but you might like to read It Watches in the Dark, then I get a decent amount of fan mail saying, I always hated books, but your book was really fun. So that's kind of, it's not so much, let me study the, middle graders of today. I
right,
don't
right.
try to incorporate modern slang because I don't understand it. And you know, your book can be laughably outdated very quickly if you do that. So I try to keep them timeless and just think, what would I like to have read at that age? And it's just the fun stuff. So they're fun to write.
Love that. Love that. And I'm a teacher. I'm always trying to keep up with the slang, and it changes every year
Yeah.
or every couple of
I
years, it
don't even
seems.
bother.
Yeah.
Because when I go into
Well,
school to talk, I don't, there's stuff I just don't understand. And I was there, I remember during the dabbing phase where just
oh yes. Hmm.
like, and people was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know if I'm being insulted. I don't know if I'm being honored. I don't know if they're messing with me. I know the teachers would tell them to knock it off, but I just like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm not
I would
gonna,
accept it as honor.
yeah, that's what I chose to believe, but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if I'm a listener and I want to find out more about you, if I want to contact you for a school visit, where are some places that I might do that?
Jeffstrand.com is pretty much your one-stop shopping place. There's a contact page, and I check my email constantly. I'm not checking it during this podcast, but any other time I am checking my email constantly. So I'm very easy to get a hold of. They can email me, and I'll do Zoom visits for free. I'm not, there's no charge for that, and I will, visit your school if you cover the expenses, and I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. So,
Cool, cool. I love author visits and appreciate your time. Did we miss anything that you want to make sure to include on this talk before we close out?
no, I think that covers it. I'm, working on
Nice.
the Stalker book. I've got lots of stuff coming out. I have a book called Fun Times at the Bloodbath, which is an adult horror novel. And that'll be out summer 2026. And that is just my most recent book is called Your Body Will Never Be Found. And that is grueling, punch you in the stomach, a brutal horror. And Fun Times at the Bloodbath is just, a gory good times. That's part of what we discussed earlier, where they're both technically horror novels, but one is unpleasant and one is lots of fun. So, that the next one, Fun Times at the Bloodbath. So I'll mention that.
Yeah, yeah. And you come up with great titles, by the way.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
that's again,
absolutely.
it's very rarely that the title is just like, Eureka, I've got the title. It is a very slow process with an online thesaurus. And then in every, you know, 4 times out of 5, if I find the perfect title, there's already some other book with that title. And so it's a very methodical process, but I'm usually happy with it in the end. So
Nice, nice. Well, many thanks again for the time and glad to chat
thank
with
you.
you again anytime down the line.
All right.